Okay, let's talk about your hobbies. I want to get to know you more as a person outside of your studies, outside of being a president. What are your hobbies? Like, what do you do in your free time?
I do a lot of sports. Me and my society, we played netball all the time. Probably not every single week. Then I like to play frisbee as well. But outside of sports, I'm a fan of photography. Every time in my second year, I bought a new camera, mahal.
Berapa?
Like 300. I'm a loan student, so that's
300
mahal. 300 pounds. It was like a Fujifilm X100. So it was like a camera damage one. It's quite fancy. Has a vintage body and it's very good. And then when I first bought it, the next day I done like a protest, climate change protest, the Extinction Rebellion.
When was that? Like November?
September,
October.
October.
Yeah, well, I think I was there as well.
Yeah.
I was in London when
There was a protest in Newcastle, and I was like, okay, let's test my photography skills. And I went to the protest. I was like, I fell in love with photography there. I was like taking pictures, and all the pictures turned out very well. And then I tried to sell them online because Shutterstock. And then yeah, I got a few pounds off of them.
Did you make the 300 back?
No. But it's a good progress.
Yeah. How? Can I ask how much you got
No,
from
you
selling?
can't ask,
How
you
many
can't
photos?
ask, you can't ask.
Can you just give a price range that what something to look at in the future?
Below 100.
For how many photos?
For 20?
Below 100.
Yeah.
One is below 100.
That's
Okay.
true, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
But other than that, when I was in Brunei in summer, I was hired as a freelancer to cover this event, this like 3-4 day event. There was a Indonesian princess going to Brunei, and then apparently I was related to her. I was
How did you know that?
the whole travel was based on finding the history between this Indonesian princess from Kalimantan with the Bruneian royal family. And then apparently in the Sarasilah keluarga, my grandfather was there. I was like, kena bagi kerja. Like, you like photography, right? And then I was like, yeah, can you take photos for this event? It was fun photography as a freelancer. Although it wasn't much money, it was paid like 100, 200. Was
For
fun.
one event.
For one event for like 4 days. And then they went to jumpa Sultan time Hari Jadi Sultan time itu.
Oh.
They had their own camp.
Ooh.
And then yeah, they get to meet the Sultan, and I had to experience first-hand experience taking pictures of the Sultan with the princess. It was good. And in the UK, it's more of a hobby than a job. So every time I got free time, and then mostly during golden hour, we go out, take pictures of the buildings, of the nature, and sometimes of people as well.
How beautiful is Newcastle?
Very beautiful. We have River Tyne. Do you know River Tyne?
I know Tyne, Newcastle upon Tyne.
Yeah, Tyne is the river.
Oh.
And along this river, there are a bunch of bridges. Big
Millennium
bridges.
Bridge.
Yeah,
I know
Millennium Bridge. We should visit someday. You guys should visit someday.
It's too far away for me because I'm in Southampton, so like it's literally the opposite ends.
Yeah,
of
if you're
England.
from London and you want to go out to Newcastle, it's like £100.
So like 120 for me.
Yeah, if
like
you guys ever go
Southampton's-
there, free housing.
free housing.
Free room for you guys.
So like just
Free
imagine
food,
like a hotel's like
B&B,
20 pounds.
Free B&B.
Yeah, so like just imagine a hotel's like 20 pounds. Like now it's free. So like, just
Yeah, you
cut
can
that
leave,
off your
my
transport.
house. Yes.
Yeah, balances out in the end.
Yeah.
So you're interested in photography and you're related to an Indonesian princess.
Yes, apparently.
Apparently.
Mm.
How's life in Newcastle? How's Newcastle in general?
Newcastle is a city. It's like it's a big city, and it's a city in a kampong
City in a and a kampong.
And a kampong merged together. We have a very old architecture. There's like remnants of the ancient Britain, which is the Hadrian Wall or something. Then we have a bunch of castles, and there's a lot of culture in Newcastle. But the thing about Newcastle is that not only are we beautiful, but we're also very rough
Rough.
around the edges. You know.
Your people,
The
yeah.
people are tough looking.
Tough.
They have a rough upbringing, tapi they're very nice. You know, you see this guy, burly guy, big guy, buta, then with tattoos, but he's the kindest guy ever. So you see a lot of that around Newcastle. Yeah, once I went on a train to London, but I went on a different train to Edinburgh, naik atas. Then I was like, I don't know, what do I do? Where's the next stop? And then the guy that helped me was this big dude dari Newcastle, and he was like, oh, I was scared that aku damit kan, and he's like this tall guy, and then he was like, oh, let me help you. Oh, this is the next stop. You just go down here, and then there's gonna be another train going down to London, and then you take that train. And then, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. Like,
Newcastle looks interesting, so
it is interesting.
might visit
You should.
someday.
You should.
Maybe in my maybe next year when
Next year.
when you're not allowed to
Yeah.
go to the UK.
In your
Go
final
outside
year,
the
I
UK.
won't be there, so next year.
Should be.
Yeah.
I'll be able.
You know, a lot of my friends say that. Okay, I'm gonna go to Newcastle next year. A lot of my friends from London and the southern part of UK say, okay, I'm gonna visit you next year. Next year comes, belum ada. And then next year again, don't cakap, okay, next year. I don't think they're gonna come. Somehow.
Yeah.
go.
I mean, but like, I can't go out of the UK, so
Mm,
might as well just go.
exactly.
Maybe on the way to Edinburgh as well.
Did you go to Edinburgh?
Not yet. I'm
Yeah,
planning it.
a lot of people sanggup ke Edinburgh tapi
Yeah.
you know, ke Newcastle.
Feels bad. Maybe Edinburgh's in just a new country. Newcastle?
Scotland. Newcastle is basically Scotland.
Is it?
It's dekat Edinburgh.
Isn't that gonna trigger some people?
We have the same vibe.
I have the same vibe. Have you been to Scotland? Have you been to?
No.
How do you know the same vibe?
Assumption.
Assumption. What is your opinion on the Bruneian community in the UK? Maybe in Newcastle, maybe in general, but like Bruneian community in the UK.
It differs throughout the UK. If, for example, in Southampton, you guys are very tight-knitted, right? And in Newcastle, it's also tight-knitted. But there are certain people that don't want to associate, or they live quite far away from the Bruneian community. And because of that, they're not that tight. But I think rest assured for the freshers, if your university, the university that you're going to has a large Bruneian community, say 10 or 11 people, then it's worth getting to know them and getting close to them, because you know, those are going to be your go-to people, and those are going to be your quote-unquote family when you're in the UK. Because sometimes you're going to feel homesick, and when you're homesick, you want to talk to Bruneian people. You want to talk about Brunei, what you miss about Brunei, and who best to talk to about Brunei to, and as Bruneian people. And yeah, if there's a large number of Bruneian people in your university, then the Bruneian community is tight.
Would you say it is a must for Bruneians to be associated with the Bruneian society, being active?
It's not
a must.
It's not a must. I'm not gonna force people to associate themselves with orang Brunei, but it does help in a certain sense. Like I said, if you're feeling homesick, if you need someone to talk to, if you
need to get on a flight back to Brunei for evacuation.
Exactly. Like, say you don't want to be associated with orang Brunei, the UK. You need to register with the UPP, even though you don't want to be associated. You need to register with UPP, because UPP and BSc, what we basically do in the UK is to act as a safety net for our members. 800 people in the UK, 800 people, and if there's a disaster like the COVID-19 pandemic, who do they go to? They go to us and UPP, and through us, they are safe. We manage their welfare. And then, like COVID-19, we were the ones that organized the flights. We were the ones that organized them and gave them tickets and made sure they reach home safe.
Talking about Bruneian communities in the UK, some societies have their own flagship events, and I was talking to a senior, who graduated a few years ago, and he was talking about the flagship events during his time. he was really excited talking about it. Like, he was talking about a paintball event, and
Birmingham.
yeah, Birmingham.
Mm.
It was he just told stories, fun stories about like having a lot of people come down to Birmingham and to join this event, and considering that there's a lower amount of students comparably in the last few years, and there's been a decrease in attendance in flagship events. What is your opinion on this?
My opinion on this is that the decrease of students is like the weather. You know, you can't control the weather, so we can't control the number of students going to the UK, right? But what do you do when it rains? You take out an umbrella. So what we try to do is take out our own umbrella in the form of having online events in the UK. Because online events, it doesn't take into account transport costs, doesn't take into account the time, you know, the time to go down to London or go up to Scotland or whatever. You just sit there in front of your laptop. For example, what's an online event that you know?
Talent time.
Talent time. Record yourself.
Say maybe just say one word.
Maybe say one word in front, you know, play music for like how many minutes? 3 minutes, and then you might end up winning it.
I got 4th place for that. Out of 4 people.
And then, you know, you still get a chance to win. And then when you win, you get the recognition, you get the awards, but you don't have to spend much. You know, that's our umbrella lah. We are ensuring the freshers that there will be online events that they can join freely, and for them to enjoy as much as people enjoyed the paintball event. And yeah, and taking into account the COVID-19 pandemic, this is a safer approach to having more flagship events, to having better engagement with our members.
What's your most memorable memory about your 2 years as a student, uni student?
Memorable. As I said, I'm into photography. I'm always the one that has a camera in my hand. The reason I have a camera in my hand most of the time is because I'm quite forgetful sometimes. So when people ask me, what was the best moment that you had? Hilang lah. My mind goes blank because there's so much to talk about. So much to talk about, you can't talk about just one. So with my camera, I can just pull it out and say, okay, this is the time we had a New Year's gathering, and then we went with the Malaysians to the Tyne Bridge and watched the fireworks at 12, and then it was quite an emotional event because we were facing like a stressful time that time because of exams, whatever. And this is a moment where we were all gathered around, and then we were sharing our stories. What are we gonna change about ourselves in the next year, and what are we gonna leave about us in the previous year? And because of that, it's quite emotional. And I took a lot of pictures during the gathering, and then during our trip to the Tyne Bridge. And that was one of the memorable moments I had in my second year. There's much more, but I think that's the one that is outstanding for me because it was quite emotional. So emotional that I can't really put them into words.
As they say, a picture says 1,000 words.
Yes. And I have 1,000 pictures.
Talking about your most memorable moment, let's bring it down and talk about your most challenging thing that you've ever experienced as a student or as a leader here.
You know, as a student, everyone could relate to the fact that you have a bunch of deadlines, and on top of that, you have a bunch of you want to prioritize your social life, Johan. And how do you balance this? And sometimes I think I may have balanced it wrong in my first year and second year, because sometimes I have a deadline maybe next day, and I should have done this assignment probably a week ago, but I end up doing an all-nighter sampai pagi and then baru send to them. You know, that's the biggest challenge, like time management. Also like balancing, knowing when to say no to an invitation to macam makan-makan ka, you know, because you want to give off a good impression to others. You want to stay connected, you don't want to be left out, right? Because I think that's the main thing about to freshers as well, not only to freshers but second years and final year students. Don't want to be left out. And
maybe in your first year you can abstain from saying no, but throughout your second year and third year, you need to learn how to say no sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yang masa second year macam mau makan di luar. And I'm like mau kerja. Macam
Wah,
sumpah makan.
boleh je.
Sekarang saya aku buat. And then lepas makan ngantuk tidur.
You miss your deadline.
Yeah, you miss your deadline. I mean, I never miss my deadline.
Alhamdulillah. Is that just for the camera?
I never miss my deadline.
Good. It's not just for camera. But how did you overcome it, or are you still struggling with that right now?
How did I overcome it?
How do you overcome?
Time management.
Yeah.
Learn about it. Read about it. How do you manage time? And then there's always services the university can, like a workshop by the university, career service. How do you manage time? And then you just sign up and then you learn now. How do you manage time? Have a schedule, have a journal, write these things down, Remind yourself to say no. Remind yourself that you have to get a 2-1 or a first class, Have that reminder, paste it on your wall. Remind yourself, what are you doing this for? For me, I always have pictures of my family and my parents in front of my bed. So every time I wake up, I see my parents and I see my family now. And that tells me, oh, why am I here? What am I working for? I'm working for to help my parents in the future get a job and then support my parents the way they're supporting me now. And I think that also relates to homesickness, because first year students, did you experience homesickness? Maybe quite a bit?
Maybe not a bit, but
a lot. Right. Let me guess, during Raya.
No, I didn't. I spent pause and Raya in Brunei, so I didn't get the full homesickness experience.
Yeah.
But the first few months were tough for me. I maybe cried a bit, but let's not put that
It's
in.
okay to cry.
It's okay to cry.
For me, first year, I remember a period where I was really homesick. And I always think of myself, I'm not that type to be homesick. I'm strong, mentally tough. But when it came to puasa, when it came to Hari Raya and seeing my family and my cousins and my friends in Brunei like celebrating the first day of Raya, because first day is always the best day for Raya. And I see these posts online and I'm like, wow, I'm not there. This is the first time I'm not in the pictures for my family, with my family. And that hit me hard now. And because of that, I was homesick. And cried a bit.
But that's all part of living in the UK.
That's part of the process.
I haven't experienced it, so
if you feel homesick, that's okay, that's normal. It's part of the process, and you have to respect the process. And after you face these homesick periods,
you appreciate them more when you go back.
Exactly. And then you start to learn more about yourself, like, okay, next time how do I not get homesick? For me, I pasted my pictures of my family, and then mamaku bagi macam makanan Brunei. And then in my first year, I never really called my parents that much. Maybe twice a month. But in my second year, I appreciated them more. I was the one to initiate a call. That was the first time in my second year to initiate a call to my parents. Previously, in my first year, they were always the one that macam telefon. But in my second year, I tried to initiate that. And be grateful and lower down your pride with your parents.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how they feel, Exactly.
That's very good. That's very good wisdom from you.
Thank you.
So it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry.
It's okay to cry, and it's better to cry with a few friends.
Yeah. That's right.
That's why Bruneian community is important.
Yeah.
Especially